What's good, everyone? Back with another Marvel's Avengers build video, and in this build video I'm going to actually finally give it to you, the Kate Bishop Kill Bill status effect melee build. I know a lot of people have been waiting on my melee build, and I finally got a great build for you to use. With Kate Bishop, I personally love using her with her melee build and her range build. She's one of my favorite characters to use, and I'm telling you, with her melee build, she does require some sort of buff, but it's still decent enough to do a lot of damage when you're running missions, and she is very underrated when it comes to her melee build. So let's get it started. We're going to quickly go into the gear and tell you what gear I have and where to get the gear, and also quickly I'll tell you what to build around in terms of stats. So with their stats right now, you want to build around melee, which is your might rating, and also Valor, which is your heroic rating. So Valor, Proficiency, and Might are three ratings that I'll look forward to when I am getting gear. And I also will get some sort of like Resolve for my defense, just because with the melee build, you want to have at least decent defense so you can go up front with enemies, get in the mix of things, and do a lot of melee combos and not die very quickly. So defense is also important. So let's go ahead with the gear. Incredible piece here. So this is actually part of the War for Wakanda expansion that came along with the release of Black Panther. This piece right here I got was from the War for Wakanda vendor. So the Wakanda Outpost vendor, sorry. And it's based on Proficiency, which is for your heroic rating, and Might, which is for your melee rating. So incredible stats right here. But look at the perks, because again, this is a status effect melee build. But look at these perks. Flawless, Vibranium Payload, 42% chance that a melee critical attack will activate a Vibranium Payload on the enemy target. And then we also have Lightweight Reverberation, Light Combo Finishers. So if you're on PlayStation, Light Combo Finishers are when you're just spamming square with your sword with Kate Bishop and you're inflicting Vibranium damages. So when you're doing those melee combos with square, you're inflicting Vibranium damage. So you got to make sure you do those combos to inflict that damage. And then we also got the third perk. I really don't care much about this, but it is pretty good. It's called Overcharge Recuperation, sorry. 200% increased willpower regeneration while overcharged. So what that means is what overcharge basically means quickly is when your intrinsic meter, which is below your health, when you're fighting enemies, is fully maximized, you're going to have a 200% increased health regeneration. So that's what that means. Quickly, I'm going to show you where to get this piece, because you do have to check with the vendor every day, but you want to make sure when you're building a melee build for Kate Bishop, look for melee and Valor gear pieces, and also have decent defense. So we're going to go over here. So we're at the Wakanda Outpost. So this is where you spawn when you first get into Outpost, and you're going to go left. So we're going to go left. All right, so this is a gear vendor here. So you need to check this every day, because not every day he has that particular gear piece. So you're going to go over here to specialty items, and this is where you get it. So you can see there's an epic version of this, but still not as good as a legendary one I have, because it's power attacks. And with Kate Bishop's power attacks is more of her range attacks that you're doing. So this is pretty good for a range thing, but look at the ratings. You don't want to really get that. So it is a legendary item, but again, check every day and he will drop that piece somewhere here. Okay?
Oh, that is fine. Maybe later.
All right, shout out to that homie though. You know, incredible melee piece. I just came across it recently, but that piece is incredible. So now we have the targeted buff arrowheads. This is a range piece. So with this piece, you look at it, Proficiency, Precision, Valor. Proficiency and Valor is what you really want when you're looking for a range piece, because it does help with your melee rating or your melee attacks. But the most important thing to look for is the perk Targeted Buff. Targeted Buff basically is 30% chance hitting an enemy with the range critical attack grants a damage buff. And also what I want to mention is you can see the second perk here. It says Gamma Tipped Arrows. Range attacks with scattershot arrows deal gamma damage. So quickly, just a quick overview of status effects. with this Kate Bishop build, you're looking at a melee and a range piece, right? With your range piece, you always want to go for cold status effects. So when you're using scatter shot arrows, you can either deal gamma damage, shock damage, cryo damage, or even sonic damage, which is a new status effect that was introduced to the game from the War for Wakanda expansion. So with your range piece, make sure you have one of those cold status effects. So that's, again, sonic, gamma, shock, and cryo. And then with your melee piece, going back to this real quickly, I personally love having the vibranium status effect just because it does a lot more damage than the other status effects in my opinion. But if you feel like you can't come across this piece, but again, you are going to check with that vendor every day, so you will eventually get this piece. But warm status effects are PIM, plasma, and cosmic, and vibranium. So with their melee, you want to go with warm status effects, and then with your range, you want to go with cold status effects. And when those two combine together, because I am going to demonstrate later in the video, that'll create a battery effect for you to do a lot more damage onto your enemies. So back to this gear piece right here. The third perk is also pretty decent. We have Expert Spark, 26.4 chance defeating enemy in their weak point grants a heroic charge burst. So that basically helps increase your heroic charge rates. So with the targeted buff, again, this is very important because it is going to grant a damage buff. And then once you get that damage buff activated, that's when you're going to go into your melee combo finishers. So where does that piece drop? Well, let's go to the war table real quickly. I hope this is it. Yep. So with that targeted buff perk and that legendary piece I have that has Valor and Proficiency, it actually can drop in any mission that has a legendary gold loot box. So if you open that loot box, there is a chance you might get this. Or even when you're defeating enemies, there's a chance where a gold or a legendary item might drop and you can get this as well. However, what I recommend that you run to increase your odds of getting something like that is you can first run any of the vault missions, because when you're opening those loot boxes throughout the vault mission, there is a chance you might get that piece. Or you can run villain sector missions. So here's a vault mission, and then let's go. I think today's villain sectors are in the wastelands. So we got the Maestro missions right here, but villain sector missions are the Monica mission, which is located right, where is it? Snowy Tundra. Okay, yeah. So here's a villain sector mission. Or you can also run the Abomination, Taskmaster, the Warbot, one of those villain sector missions. There's a chance where you get that, or Vault. So one of those two. So the Elite Vaults also are pretty good because you have a better chance of getting better gear through the Elite Vaults from what I noticed compared to the regular Vault missions. But run the Vault missions or villain sector missions to increase your odds of getting that, you know, range piece with this targeted buff perk, because this is very important. You want the targeted buff perk and you want a status effect perk with scatter shot arrows. The reason I say scatter shot arrows is because you'll be able to activate your damage buff pretty quickly with scatter shot. Next one here, this is a defense legendary piece. Again, same thing. I got it from one of those legendary loot boxes, like gold loot boxes, by running the villain sector missions or running those vault missions. But with this piece, I like it just because it has might and valor. It has good stats, and I also like the first perk. It's called reactive protection. So going back to what I was saying about defense, with defense, it is very important for a melee build. You can't have like under 1,000 defense, because there is a chance when you run into an enemy, you're going to be hit hard. Yes, I do have 1,200 plus defense, which is decent, but with Kate Bishop's ability to teleport as well, that helps me to avoid a lot of damage and avoids me taking a chance of taking a lot of damage. But this perk right here is pretty good. Sometimes people will go for a damage buff perk, but honestly, that's up to you. I personally like the reactive protection just because it gives me a 30.6% chance taking damage. So when enemies are attacking you, there's a chance where your defensive buff will activate and your defense will increase, which will, you know, minimize the damage you take. So that's what I have right here. So yeah, Might and Valor is what you want to look for with this legendary piece. I really haven't come across any good exotic piece that has some decent perks. This one right here is pretty good. However, it doesn't relate to my melee piece and my range piece that I currently have. So yeah, definitely just look for a legendary piece for the time being with a defensive damage buff. I mean, a defensive perk. Reactive protection is what it's called. That will help you a lot with your melee Kate Bishop build. And again, we'll quickly go to the war table. So that can drop in the villain sector missions or the vault missions when you're opening those loot boxes. And I also will say there is a chance where you can get the range piece and this defensive piece from other missions as well when you're opening legendary boxes or loot boxes and you're fighting enemies. However, keep in mind the odds of getting it in those missions are not as high as the vault and villain sector missions. Last gear piece here, we have the Provocators Charm. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's all good. This piece, I like it because look at the perks. We'll quickly go over that. Surge Enhancer, 20% increased damage and impact while your heroic ultimate ability, Quantum Surge, is active. So this piece helps a lot, especially when Kate Bishop uses her heroic ultimate. That heroic ultimate, honestly, is crazy. I love it. And that increases the damage of that. And then we also have Decoy Effector because you are also going to have a decoy with this build, and I will show you in the skills tree. Decoy Effector, 10% duration of decoy increases the damage and effectiveness of the decoy. And then we have Quantum Precision. This basically increases your range damage during Quantum Overdrive. So I don't know if this really relates to, I still haven't figured it out, but I don't know if it really relates to Kate Bishop's heroic ultimate that I currently have with her, but I will show you in the skills tree. I'm not also sure if there's a perk where it says Quantum Melee or Quantum Might. That will be great, but regardless, this piece is good to have just because of the Surge Enhancer. And when you're looking for an exotic piece like this, make sure you're aiming for Resolve, Valor, and Might instead of Precision. I might eventually down the road farm for this piece again where I might have some Might and Valor instead of Precision. Resolve definitely helps with your health, but yeah, you don't want that Precision. You want that Might to help with your Might, with your melee attacks, and then also make sure it has Valor. And this piece right here, this piece drops from something called the Priority Threat mission that is weekly, and it drops one exotic mission. It changes every week on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. I know that mission today currently is right here in the Eastern Seaboard. That is, you can see right here the rewards. So that's the one exotic, that's where you can get this mission. So it's a Priority Threat Sector mission weekly. You have a chance to run it and you're able to get that heroic piece. Now into minor artifacts. So minor artifacts, I like to have a balance of Might and Valor. So with this, I personally wish I had some sort of, you know, heroic charge boost perk on this, but it's all good. It does have a nice decent perk because it has something called Aerial Boon. With Kate Bishop, while you're teleporting, you can fight in the air and use your melee attacks. This kind of has a 6% increased critical chance for mid-air melee attacks. So it is pretty good. However, I do prefer having something like this, the Ultimate Heroic Charge. This increases the charge rate of heroic ultimate ability by 9.3%. So it is a rare artifact for the Valor piece and an epic, you know, minor artifact for the Might piece. But again, sometimes you will come across a rare piece that will have better stats and a better gear perk than the epic piece. So it depends on what you get. But with these two pieces, you can get it from any mission that has loot boxes when you're opening them. Or what you can do is you can run, let's go into drop zone missions real quick. So yeah, here's some examples of some drop zone missions. You have a chance of getting, you know, a minor artifact from here. But again, go with the balance of Might and Valor. So yeah, that's that. And then, like I said, we were going back talking about status effects. So I'm not using the Sacred Nornstone of Lethal Will with this build. I'm using the Tactigen. This basically has a perk of 13% increased damage on enemies affected by any status, and exploit perk says 13 increased status damage from all attacks. So I would prefer to have this piece because you're going to first inflict gamma damage with your scattershot arrows or any other cold status effect, and it will help you activate that damage buff. And then this is where you're going to go into your light combo finishers, spamming square if you're on PlayStation, and use combo finishers, and you'll inflict vibranium damage. And again, that battery effect will take place, and you'll do a lot more damage. On top of that, with that damage buff perk, you'll activate. So that's why I'll get this piece instead of the Sacred Nornstone of Lethal Will. Okay, again, this is like a status effect melee build. So we went over all the gear pieces on where to get those, and also the minor artifacts, and also a breakdown quickly of the stats now and the major artifact. Now let's quickly go into skills and show you what skills to use. Okay, so we're at skills right now. So going back to my melee piece, you saw that it's based off of light combo finishers. So what light combo finishers are, it's basically under your light attack. So this is what I'm mostly using when I'm fighting melee. When I'm using my melee attacks, I'm using Blade Dancer. So this is a light combo finisher, which will activate that vibranium status effect damage. So that's what I'm using. And then I am going to demonstrate how this build works, but what I will say before I do that is you can also go into heavy attacks, but depending on what your melee gear perk is, you want to make sure you focus on that. So mine was, again, light combo finishers. So I'm going to be focusing on Blade Dancer and all these other ones right here. So like I was saying, so yeah, with your range attack now, so when you're using scattershot arrows, right over here, this is where you're going to activate your damage buff. And then you go into this. And that's all it is. And then intrinsic, you guys can see right here, intrinsic. Also, when you're holding R2, I also try to do my intrinsic attacks. So I hold R2 if you're on PlayStation, the right trigger. And depending on your intrinsic meter, I'll hold it and continue hitting my enemies with square, because you can see right here, with the light intrinsic attack, increases the chance to inflict critical attack damage. So your intrinsic attacks do increase the damage that you do on the enemies. Alright, so quick overview of that. So you're going to first activate your scatter shot arrow, get that damage buff going, inflict that cold status effect damage, and then you're going to go into your intrinsic light combo finishers. Alright, so now we're going to go into specialty. So specialty, I'm just going to quickly go over. We're at the support heroic. You can see right here. Not really going to explain it as much because it is similar to what I had on my range build. But if there's something I want to explain, I will explain it to you. So this is a decoy. So this basically means it regenerates your health and also that intrinsic energy. So you will be able to use more intrinsic attacks. And that's, again, your intrinsic meter is that meter under your health bar. And then we also have Healing Light. 20% chance the decoy will generate regeneration packs as it deals damage. Now, Assault Heroic ability. So this is a little bit different from what I had on my range build. So I equipped it with this. It's called Jumper. That's basically a second Warp Arrow charge. However, I went with a third Warp Arrow charge too. So you basically have about, I would say, 3 or so Warp Arrows to use. And the reason I didn't go with these other attributes right here is, like, technically I can do this. Like, if I want, I can go into this. But the reason I like having the Warp Arrow charge, having 3 of them, is you'll see in the demonstration, I'll be able to spam them. And then when I do spam my Warp Arrow, what it's going to do is, like you see in this clip right here, it's going to teleport me into the enemies, and then I'll go straight into my light combo finishers or my light combo intrinsic finishers and stuff like that. So that's why I prefer to have 2 of these charges. I know some people will be like, oh, why don't you just use this so you can inflict more damage? I'm like, it's really up to you. I can really go with this and have just 2 warp arrows, but I like this so then I can get teleported. And sometimes I like having the ability of having more warp arrows, because let's say I'm running a mission where, okay, one of my teammates are struggling and I've already used up 2 of my warp arrows and I have 1 more. I can aim my warp arrow towards my teammate so I can get teleported over there and help my teammate out attacking and clearing enemies before that person dies. So that's why I went with this. It's called Void Walker, and then we got Jumper. So that's that. Ultimate heroic ability. Love this ability right here. So quick thing. So quantum energy that overflows. Quick summary of it. Powers up all range and melee attacks. So what I like with this is it's the same ability I have on my range build. Same heroic ultimate. If you haven't seen my range build, I will put a link to that build in the comments and also in the description. But it's called Quantum Sight. Quantum Sight, what the melee build is, you're just going to be spamming square or triangle, and you're just going to be throwing some waves of intrinsic attacks or energy projectiles, you know, when you're fighting enemies. And again, going back to your gear piece right here, your heroic ultimate will get an increased charge, like an increased damage boost because of this piece and this perk called Surge Enhancer. So that's why I went with that, you know, ultimate heroic ability. And honestly, I love it. It reminds me of, like, you know, if you guys haven't played that Devil May Cry, it reminds me of, you know, playing with Dante and, you know, using his attacks. But Quantum Sight is incredible. That's why I love using Kate Bishop as a melee build as well. And then next we have this one right here. Quantum Magnifier. Damage from all quantum energy infused attacks is increased by 10% while Quantum Overdrive is active. So this is your heroic ultimate ability, infuses your range, your melee attacks with quantum energy. So this is another like small damage buff here. It'll increase the damage by 10% while your quantum overdrive is active. So that's a specialty. Now let's quickly go into mastery real quick. So I have the wrong one here. So this is what I'll go with. So we have half private eye, increase the critical damage of sprint and dodge attacks by 50%. So if you're dodging or sprinting towards enemies, you can increase your damage by 15%. Let me make sure I have the right ones here. Yep, so then we have competitive streak, increase the damage of all combo finishers by 15%. And again, this is under mastery. Obviously with takedown, you want to perform a takedown to get a heroic orb, which will help with your heroic abilities. And then with range, we'll just quickly go over this because it is with the scatter shot perk. So that's that. Now intrinsic ability. So increase the critical attack chance of the intrinsic light and heavy attacks. So that's light and heavy attack combo finishers by 15%. And this one, honestly, I'll probably go with this right here, Quantum Might. So Quantum Might is increase the damage of all intrinsic attacks by 20%. Seems like I didn't adjust some of these, but this is what you want to use. So that's that. Then we also have, let's quickly, is this the, yeah, I'll probably use this. So Quantum Optimizer, quick description of this. This basically reduces the intrinsic energy use when you're using your light and heavy intrinsic attacks. Because if you don't have this equipped, your intrinsic meter is going to disappear pretty quickly. And then it also has a potential where you won't be able to teleport to avoid damage at times. So go with this Quantum Optimizer. And then we got Overcharge Surge. Defeating enemies while overcharged adds a buff duration by 1 second, which is good because when you're overcharged and you're defeating enemies. So this is great when you're fighting multiple enemies. I'm actually thinking about this one right now. I don't know. Wait, I'll overcharge. You know what? we're gonna go with this. Because I just saw it. So see what my melee build, I didn't really adjust most of it because I know I can see there's some things I forgot to put in. So go with this quantum elementalist. While overcharge, attacks increase the enemy status meters by 10%. So when you're doing gamma and vibranium damage, you'll be able to do a lot. You'll be able to fill out that status damage meter on those enemies fairly quickly, and then that'll help you activate your battery effect. And then, yes, this one, overcharge finisher boost, increase the amount of overcharge meter energy gain from all combo finishers by 10%. So go with that. This is regarding range critical. You don't need to worry about that. Then the last one under mastery, we have critical overcharge, and critical attack chance of melee attacks is increased by 10% while overcharge. So there were a couple things I had to adjust. My apologies to that, but there we go. This is the melee build for Kate Bishop skill, like mastery skills to use. So quick, I'll leave this like this so you guys know what to select. And now let's go into the champion system real quick. So you can see I'm currently still working on my champion system, trying to max out a lot of things. I'll actually do this right now because this is going to help with activating my damage buff perk, my defensive buff perk, and also that vibranium payload from my melee gear piece. So let's go ahead and spend something right here. So when you're looking at your champion system, this is what I would prefer to do first. I would actually get your perk chance boost maximized because this will help activate a damage buff a lot faster with your range piece of scattered shot arrow and the targeted buff perk. And then if you really want to get into it, you can go into your critical damage boost, critical chance boost, and also your status and stun damage boost, because again, this is a status and stun damage build. And then after that, you can go into all this if you really want to increase the charge rate. Eventually, if Kate Bishop is your main character, you're going to max out everything. But if you really want to focus on perk chance boost and then all the tactical boosts right here. If you really want, you can go into the combo boost, but it's really up to you. But the main four would be perk and all the tactical boost. And that's a breakdown of the champion system. And if you do have any questions after the video's done, let me know in the comments below. I will again put timestamps like I do with all my build videos in the comments, so you can skip to whatever part that will help you with this Kate Bishop melee status effect build. Now, the fun part, like I always like to do, it's time to demonstrate this build and show you what kind of attacks I use. So let's go. Okay, thank you for joining me in the harm room right now. So again, a quick demonstration of the build. This is where it's going to get fun, and I'll actually show you the build in action. I'm also going to show you some in-game footage, like of in-game missions with this Kate Bishop melee build, so you can actually see what kind of real damage it does. Because when I'm experimenting with my builds, I always like to use a custom harm room to fight 170 enemies to just give me that challenge. So let's quickly get it started real quick. You know what, let's take that off. The enemies, we're going to fight proto-synthoids at 170. Just quick demonstration. I'm not really going to go very long with this. So what we're going to do first is we're going to activate our artifact, the Tactogen, get a damage buff going like that, activate our heroic ultimate, apply the decoy, go into warp arrow, and now this is where the fun begins. Now you can go into your light combo finishers, or you can go into your intrinsic combo finishers. So you can see, you're just like spamming it, because with your Quantum Surge activated, you can see your intrinsic meter doesn't even get phased. Now that my damage buff is also gone, you can also see one little thing, right? How am I supposed to activate my damage buff again? So the way to do that while your heroic ultimate is activated is, you can just use triangle. Because remember, with the range piece you have to get the targeted damage buff perk activated, oh, now it's gone. Well, I can go back into scatter shot, but you can either use triangle while your heroic ultimate ability is activated to get a damage buff again, or you can get fancy and jump in the air and hit square if you're on PlayStation to hit like a smoke screen onto your enemies to also activate a range attack to get a damage buff. But let's get this going. So let's get a lot more enemies spawned again. So go and get our damage buff going. Warp arrow. Now I'm teleported. There we go. So again, while I'm using Scatter Shot, I'm inflicting gamma damage on all these enemies. Then I'll go into them, get my light vibranium combos. And you can also see what the vibranium status effect damage, when you inflict vibranium damage, the enemy does tend to explode and they will attack, like the status effect will spread and attack other enemies. So let me see if I can try and, okay, right here. Alright. And again, this is coming from your melee piece. So those purple numbers was your vibranium status effect numbers. So there's an occasion like where, like right there, you see that enemy in the purple that's glowing right now? He's going to explode and you'll see. We're going to pay attention. There you go. Did you see that? So that's what vibranium status effect damage does, and that's why I like that more than the other status effects. So let's quickly get a damage buff going. Last demonstration, use Warp Arrow. Boom, attack these enemies. Now go into your intrinsic. So intrinsic light combo finishers are holding your right trigger, whether you're on Xbox or PlayStation, and using your melee attacks. And I just died there. Oh my goodness, my bad. But like I said, quick demonstration. So again, you're going to use your artifact first. You're going to use your Scatter Shot arrow ability with that perk I was telling you about to get the damage buff going and inflict cold status effect damage. And then you're going to go into your melee combos and your intrinsic melee combos. And one fun thing I want to show you is, because I was mentioning Warp Arrow in the skill trees, the reason I like to have multiple Warp Arrow charges is the reason why. Is this reason why actually. So look, I have all these enemies coming after me, right? Let's say my health is low. I only have Warp Arrow to save me. I'm gonna try and go all the way to the end of the other side. Right here. So where did I get teleported? Oh, right over here. And let's say I have a teammate that is in danger right over there. With this Warp Arrow ability, I'm just going to teleport towards them. And then, there we go. Help my teammate out and fight these enemies. So that's a quick demonstration. So again, activate your artifact, get that cold status effect going and the damage buff. Use your heroic ability, pop your decoy, and now go all in. And look at all those abilities on the left screen activated, like all those buffs and perks. And yep, there we go. Quick demonstration. So let's quickly reset the harm room. So that was the quick demonstration. So now what we're going to do is, again, remember when I was telling you about this melee piece right here? I know I mentioned it while we were going over the gear, but make sure you get this melee piece from that Wakanda Outpost vendor, because this will help deal vibranium damage and also create a vibranium payload onto an enemy target, and that'll increase the chance of that enemy target exploding. And that will come in handy when you're combining it with the cold status effect range attack, whether it's gamma, cryo, shock, or sonic. And then obviously you saw a little bit in the demonstration, my defensive buff activated too, because while I was getting hit by enemies, I got a defensive buff. And then when I activated my heroic ultimate, my surge enhancer activated and I was able to do a lot more damage, and the decoy was also able to do a lot more damage with the decoy effector. And then quantum precision, I think that also helped with my ultimate heroic ability as well, due to that quantum overdrive. But again, you want make sure you follow everything I did in the video, because this is, trust me, a great Kate Bishop melee build to use, and it is fun to use. Kate Bishop is a well-balanced build. Obviously, her melee build might need a little bit more tuning when it comes to it, but she is still pretty good with her melee combos, and you'll be able to use this build in any mission that you will like, especially if you get bored of her range build. And with her range build, if you really want a good one, I will put a link to that video in the comments below so you can check it out. So that is the demonstration and the breakdown of my Kate Bishop melee status effect, Kill Bill build, whatever you want to call it, the ultimate melee build. You know, I broke down the gear, where to get the gear, the skills, a demonstration, and also going to throw in some clips right after this so you can actually see this build in action during the missions. If you do have any questions, again, let me know in the comments below. I'll definitely answer all questions that you have. And please show your support by subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and just continue sharing this with any other Kate Bishop fans out there who plays Marvel's Avengers, because this is a great melee build for Kate Bishop. And when we do eventually get more loadouts, you'll be able to have multiple loadouts for Kate Bishop, and then you'll be able to have multiple builds. So that's that. Thank you again for watching. I will put timestamps as well in the comments below so you can skip to any part you would like of the video. And yeah, till next time, stay safe, take care. I'm out. Peace.
I'm scared, and she's on my side. It's how quickly you